Late last Thursday, after careful and thoughtful deliberation, the grand jury returned a 32-count indictment against Aurora police officers Randy Rodima and Nathan Whittier, former Aurora police officer Jason Rosenblatt, and Aurora Fire Rescue paramedics Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chikuniak for their alleged conduct on the night of August 24th, 2019, that resulted in the death of Mr. McClain.
Saying we are with Shanine McClain, the mother of Elijah McClain. We heard the Attorney General say that those who are having charges filed against them in this indictment will be presumed innocent, but your son wasn't given that opportunity, and you're pleased with the direction of what's taking place right now. Shanine, in terms of being pleased with the direction of where we're at right now, where do we go from here? What should people be doing? Is this a moment of celebration? I'm at a loss. Where are we at?
Definitely nothing to celebrate. This is a part of the process. The judicial system is supposed to be there to make laws that everybody can adhere to. And when you put on a badge and think that you're better than everybody else, that's totally wrong. So this is nothing to celebrate. This is a step in the process. This is just one lap of the race.
When we bring up Elijah McClain and the anniversaries and the protests, it seems to me that you have to relive this almost every day, almost every moment. And in doing so, how do you take care of yourself? How do you deal with every day what we seem to be dealing with in increments?
Honestly, I deal with it in stride. I'm still a single mother. I'm still raising children. So I don't have the luxury of taking breaks and taking vacations from my job. I still grieve his loss. I still grieve his death. But I still talk to him because I know that he's just in a different form. He's spiritually still with me.
Every time I talk to Shanine McClain, it's as though she's giving me strength and us strength. And it's as though we come to support you, but it seems as though you're doing more comforting in these moments than many of us are able to even bear. Do you feel as though this is a mission? Is there a reason when you think about the moment that we're in, particularly in this world and in this country, where are we at and where do you find yourself in terms of mission?
Well, it's definitely a mission. Unfortunately, I didn't know I was going to be picked for this part. But now that I have this role in this systematic change, it's important to finish. It is a mission because my son wasn't picked either. He didn't know he was going to die that day. I know that for a fact because when I was in the hospital, I literally heard his voice screaming, no. This was something that was unfortunate because of the hatred within this world. And I get my strength from everything that I've gone through. Being a mother is important to me. Even though he's no longer here physically, I'm still his mother. So I still have to continue to carry the banner. I have to continue to hold the light.
This has been a global situation. The name Elijah McClain has resonated around the world. This news, if you just Google Elijah McClain and you look at today, it's monumental. You'll see it on CNN. You'll see it in the New York Times. You'll see it everywhere. The egregious manner in which your son was murdered and the use of ketamine, etc. I think that when this goes to trial, you're going to see some finger pointing. The APD are going to be saying that it was the paramedics, and the paramedics are going to say it was the APD. I would say it's a combination of all of them. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you because when it comes down to it, everybody's patting each other on the back, they're enabling them to be evil to other people. Whether it's the paramedics, whether it's the Civil Service Commission, whether it's the police officers themselves, they all have a part in somebody when somebody loses their life.
Is Aurora Police Department able to change, course correct? They have a long history of this behavior, and Elijah McClain's name comes up, but there are many other names, and there are recent things that have taken place, and it just seems as though it's time for the federal government to come in and take over in the same way that the governor, passed it on to the attorney general and said that this is a municipality that is obviously incapable of doing the right thing as it relates to not only justice but treatment of individuals. Do you have any faith or hope in the Aurora Police Department or the administration as it is configured right now?
Not really, because when it comes down to it, Aurora, Colorado Police Department has a history of hateful abuse, and regardless of what is said, regardless of what is done, they keep standing by what they did. They keep feeling that what they did was right, and something's wrong with that. So it has to be an overhaul of not just the individual's mentality, but the rules and the laws that are put in place to enable them to be so pissed off at other people.
We have your attorney, Kusair Mohammadi, and Kusair, I want to go to you for just a moment. And we watched a portion of Attorney Phil Weiser's statement to the public and to the press. What is it exactly that we watched from a legal standpoint? We hear this 32 indictment. We hear so much going on, and you have represented so many individuals that have been on the other side of just abuse. What is it that we watched today? What is it that we need to take away as lay people, Kusair?
Sure. So the technical term of what we saw would be the unsealing of a grand jury indictment. So this is, there's a lot of secrecy, there's a lot of confidentiality in the process, and now this is the first step of moving it from that confidential, secret place of a grand jury, which Phil Weiser said was used for investigation, for subpoenas and things of that nature, to get witnesses who were reluctant to speak, to get documents that weren't being provided. It's all a tool for that. And today we saw the unsealing, basically the verdict or the decision of the grand jury.
Kusair, I've got plenty of questions because I don't know how to feel in this moment. I don't know if it's celebratory. I don't know if it's a step in the right direction, but I do know that there's a legal process that is working its way through. Can you tell us from your perspective, what are your thoughts in terms of this case and how is it going to be presented, and what to expect?
Right. This is not a time to celebrate. None of the accomplishments that Shaneen has achieved is worthy of celebration. The cost to Shaneen and her family is unbearable, and we don't celebrate any of that, but we just move forward and we try to make the best of what has been given to us. And in terms of what the reaction is, it's conflicted. We are celebrating the criminal justice system in some part, a system that's used for mass incarceration of men of color, but at the same time it feels right that these officers are held to the same standard as the rest of us. And so it's a difficult sort of duality, right? Sometimes they're contradictory, but we just have to acknowledge one, that we don't want to be propping up the criminal justice system by any means, which has been used as an improper tool. But at the same time, Shaneen McClain believes that this is a part of Elijah's justice, and that's good enough for me.
When we talk about justice and justice for Elijah McClain, Shaneen, what does that mean? What does justice for Elijah McClain mean?
To prove that he was innocent, to make sure it doesn't happen to someone else, to hold the police officers and the paramedics accountable, and basically just to show everybody that our humanity does matter, how we treat each other does matter. It's not about the color, it's not about the uniform, it's not about the different jobs that we have, it's about how we treat each other that's going to get us through.
Shaneen, I haven't met anyone, and maybe you have, because unfortunately, you are also doubly victimized by public opinion and what people are saying and typing, and just you said the word, just the kind of hateful energy that is out there. But I haven't run into many people, and me personally, Kusair, I haven't run into anybody who has said Elijah McClain should not be here. We know that Elijah McClain should still be here with his mother, his family, his loved ones, attending, and pursuing, the life that he would like to live, everyone looks at that and says Elijah McClain should be here. And with that, him not being here, they need to be held accountable. But in this society, it seems to be a double standard that there are some that are accountable, whereas others are not accountable, and all of these different standards. How does that land with you?
It shows me that there's still a lot of work to be done. It's still a lot of fighting that needs to be fought. You know, it comes down to me, good versus evil. Those that are good-hearted, good-natured versus those that are not. And I do get a lot of hateful comments still that say he deserved what he got.
Like, I mean, what's the justification of deserved what happened? Is that going to what we often hear is stop resisting arrest, or what? Like, Kuser, can you just take that up? What would be the argument, or what is the argument that, you know, whatever happened was right and in good order?
I mean, you just got to look at the Aurora Police Association's comments. When you tell us that no one is saying anything contrary to Elijah, well, look at the police department. They just put out a statement. And you don't want to give these fools a lot of, and the noise they bring, a lot of attention, but they say nothing has changed. Our officers did nothing wrong. Forget about law. They're saying that the murder of beautiful Elijah McClain was not even wrong. They're saying that the community's reaction, the grand jury's reaction, is a, quote, hysterical overreaction, and that has brought damage to the police department. Well, the only people who are bringing damage to the police department right now is the Aurora Police Association. If there's any doubt as to why folks are not believing police anymore, why we're suspicious of motives, you just have to look at this cold, callous statement. You cannot listen and watch the body camera of Elijah's final moments and say nothing is wrong, but those who are sworn to protect and serve us are saying this is A-okay by us.
You know, it's a tragedy all around, just thinking about what took place. And Shanine, there are a lot of individuals that would like to support you and your family, and many have, I would imagine, in the spirit of thinking they were supporting your family, cause more harm.
Right.
You know what I mean? How can the community and those of good intentions be supportive of you and your family without being disruptive and, at worst, opportunistic?
Well, I definitely don't need anyone making profit off of his murder. I don't need any T-shirts or apparel made, shoes, hats with Elijah's name or his dying words on it, because that's traumatic. You know, he wasn't put in that position by choice. He was forced. Those words were forced from his body while he was being murdered. So that's nothing to capitalize on. Positive prayers, positive intentions, positive energy being sent toward me and my family is definitely appreciated. But everything else doesn't even need to happen. If they want to push the awareness of what happened to him, share the news articles. You know, tell somebody else about what happened to him without commercializing on it.
You know, that's the capitalization of pain, and unfortunately, we see that often. And you're actually experiencing it. I read something where you were at a protest, and someone actually walked up to you to sell you a T-shirt, an Elijah McClain T-shirt.
Yeah. That's gross.
I mean, it's simply incredible. Are there ways that you have been supported, like have those protests, et cetera, been successful and helped lead to this point, the awareness, et cetera? Where are you at? And then when folks are creating protests in the name of Elijah, where are you at in 2021 with that?
Well, as we can see, protests by themselves don't push justice. There's a lot of people that have been murdered by the police officers, and it didn't matter how many protests was going on, they still didn't get their name cleared. The way to support humanity is by doing the right thing. You know, just treat each other better. All I really care about is what my goals are, and that's to make sure the whole world knows about what happened to my son and how wrong it was.
You know, it was interesting listening to Attorney General Phil Weiser. He actually used the word ketamine. And when you think about, there has been some legislation that has gone to and has been passed around in the state of Colorado that limits or prohibits that. Would you say that that's a step in the right direction also?
It takes a tool from the killers, so I would say as a whole, I'm neutral on the bill passing in Colorado because it doesn't ban it, but it takes that tool out, and let's be honest, they'll just go and find something else if they really want to hurt somebody.
Kusir, when you think about Attorney General Phil Weiser, he said, now that I file this, he said, I think he used a term like it's open. Like does that mean that the public can now go in and look at and see some of the different things, or is it still most of it sequestered because of the pending trial?
No, certainly compared to the grand jury process, now a lot of this will be public. The criminal, now it's no different than any kind of very high profile criminal prosecution. So yes, the public, our judicial system is an open system. It's enshrined in the First Amendment as being accessible to the public. We do not do secret prosecutions of individuals, and so they will get their due process, but the public will now get to see what the grand jury saw, which is overwhelming evidence of Elijah's innocence and about the overwhelming evidence of the brutality surrounding his murder.
And so when you think about this trial, obviously the Aurora DA, that whole system decided that there was nothing wrong, there was nothing to prosecute. And in watching the actual statement of Attorney General Phil Weiser, he mentioned that there were two tracks he could have pursued, just looking at what Aurora looked at and maybe perhaps saying if they were right or wrong, or expanding, the scope. And I believe he said he did the latter. What are some of the things that are going to be exposed in this trial that, perhaps, the former DAs or whoever didn't want to either examine or see? What are some of the things that are going to be seen in this particular trial?
I mean, the most glaring that I think the public will be outraged about the most is just the lack of reason to stop Elijah in the first place. There is no doubt that this was a racially motivated stop. He was simply walking. He was simply existing in public spaces. So that's one, that there just has been no explanation for why. Secondly, why they went hands-on as quickly as they did. Elijah was offering no resistance. He was offering nothing. You can hear it in his voice. We do not need to listen to the dishonesty being put forth by the police officers there. We can hear it. He was doing nothing. He was gentle, he had his dignity, and he was simply asking questions. Third, the ordering of the ketamine. Why paramedics have become tools of law enforcement to simply just issue doses 10 times, 20 times more than a person can handle, it's unclear. But we applaud those criminal charges against the paramedics as well. Their culpability, their standing by watching, their complete failures to abide by the Hippocratic oath to do no wrong. That's something else that the public is going to see. And I think the last thing that they're going to see is the sheer brutality and callous of the culture of the Aurora Police Department. That this is happening time and time again. It's not by accident, it's by design.
Not by accident, it is by design. Shanine, so much, and I know that you've got it's a busy day for you.
Yeah.
And always thank you, both of you, all of you, for coming by the Free Think Zone and just sharing information that the public needs to know, wants to know, and most importantly, how to support. But with all of that being said, just watching the murder of your son is traumatizing. What impact has it had on you and your family, the siblings, the day-to-day life, like the unfolding of that trauma all the time? And then how do you and where do you get support, and particularly those who have been victimized? Where does the support, where can it be found?
I actually look within myself for the support, with everything, like I said, that I've been through as a single mom. I just pull from that reserve. I have good people standing beside me right now that also help with me, help with supporting me as well. I'm on social media, there's some times where I'm on social media, there's people from social media that supported me too. But I don't know. Every day is a battle. Every day is a battle. Staying away from the negative comments on social media and pulling good energy from the good comments is one thing, but it's still a battle because I do relive it. No matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody does, this is always going to be something that sticks with me for the rest of my life.
Wow, Shaneen McClain, mother of Elijah McClain, brutally murdered and even mocked.
Even mocked.
Like murdered and mocked. For example, when you saw the officers going back and reenacting and taking pictures at the scene, how did that land with you?
Oh, they felt it was a good kill. That's exactly how they felt. It was like they went hunting and put a deer head on the wall.
It's simply amazing. When you were notified, because you received the information, according to Attorney General Phil Weiser, well before, maybe a couple weeks before the public announcement. When you heard what was going to take place, what was your response?
I was numb. I heard about it yesterday, so I was a little numb, to be honest. Because I still had to do my mama duties, I had to take it in stride. So it was a moment while we were having the conversation where I was like, putting my fist in the air, like, yes, this is happening now. This is really moving forward. But it wasn't something that I could sit on and dwell on. I had to continue with who I am.
Couldn't sit on or dwell on. In other words, life goes on.
Life goes on.
Like, you had to continue being a mom. And then you're getting this information, you're juggling so much. Shaneen McClain has been just relentless in terms of making sure that this story is shared, the memory is not lost, and the pursuit of justice for Elijah McClain continues. Tell me about that shirt.
Well, this shirt basically talks about how it's wrong to be racist. It talks about how racism is a sin and hateful cops should not have that much power. We need to stop enabling hate in this country. Humanity matters or nothing does. Either the way we treat people right matters or it's all going to fly away. It's not going to mean anything now or never in the future.
Are you seeing a change in this country in terms of the climate, and it seems to be a focus on perhaps indicting and convicting law enforcement? Is this a welcome change, or is this a response to social kind of interruptions to kind of appease those while the behavior continues?
It's a welcome change, but it's our responsibility. We want to live here at peace with each other, then we have to show that in every way that we live amongst ourselves. The system, we created this system, so we're the ones that have to change the system. It's not up to those that are in power right now. It's up to us to get them out of power and put the right people in place that's going to treat us equally.
Wow, Kusair, before you get going, you've prosecuted and you stood up to government. There's probably every roadblock is going to be thrown in the way of justice, but you've traveled this before. What is your advice, and what would you say to those who are watching? They have their something tied up in this. How would you temper that? What advice would you give not only to Shaneen and others, but as this trial moves forward, what would be your advice to those in terms of expectations?
The government's got no chance because we represent Shaneen McClain. It is the power of mom that we're seeing here. The sheer power of Shaneen McClain's love for Elijah is what has caused all of this. She's the one who brings us along. She's the one who supports us. She takes care of us when we're supposed to be taking care of her. This has been our blessing. It has been our honor. And I think if you want to tell the community how to topple mountains, to slay giants, whatever euphemism you want to do, you just got to look at Shaneen McClain and see the power of one black woman fighting for the justice of her son.
You know, and Kusair, one more thing. The Attorney General filed this. Is it the Attorney General? Is the state now stepping in? Like, who will the police be defending themselves against?
You know, the mechanics of it, I bet you they haven't figured out yet. But if I had to guess, I think it will be a prosecution team comprised of the Adams County District Attorney's Office with Brian Mason's office there. He's the one who replaced Dave Young. And also prosecutors from the Attorney General's office who probably were a part of the grand jury process. So I think we're going to see a prosecution team from Adams County and from the Attorney General, and they will be going up against these 5 individuals and their attorneys.
You know, Kusair, there's so much like the legal wrangling. When you talk about the team, is that like a check and balance with the Attorney General? Because a part of that team, and even though there's a new administration, a part of that team is the team that didn't see perhaps what the Attorney General saw. Is this a system of oversight, or I mean, like the district attorney is going to be having another set of eyes? Like, what do you expect?
Right, Brian Mason is a different man than David Young, and I believe, I've never spoken to Brian, but Phil Weiser did say that these indictments would be filed in Adams County. It is his jurisdiction, and I think that we're in a whole new era of police accountability. We're in a new era of the state of Colorado bringing criminal charges and doing issues of systemic reform, and I think we'll see some kind of blend. But it's up to everyone, and if I'm guessing, I don't think Phil Weiser knows either yet at this point.
Well, we're in the early stages. I think a step in the right direction. I think, Shaneen, you believe it's a step in the right direction, but a lot more to do.
A lot more to do.
A lot more to do. Shaneen, any final words, any final thoughts, anything you want to share that we didn't cover? Because there are a lot of myths, and then there are a lot of truths and a lot of falsehoods attached to all of this. Is anything you'd like to just speak on or clear up or use this opportunity to tell the free thinkers about?
I raised Elijah alone without the help of the other parent, and Elijah was not diagnosed with autism. He wasn't diagnosed with any mental issues or any physical issues at all other than asthma when he was younger. And he cured himself by eating better. You know, he changed his whole way of living, became more athletic. So there wasn't anything physically or mentally diagnosed with Elijah at all.
And he was simply going to the store.
Just going to the store. That's it. On his day off, because he worked 12 hours a day.
Wow. You know, they often like to paint us in another light once they do horrible things to us. But what you have just painted is, here's a young man, took care of himself, was working, and if he's guilty of anything, it's probably wearing a mask before it's time. Maybe he was visionary around that, because now everybody's doing what Elijah was doing.
He was always like that. A lot of things that's happening now, he told me about before it happened. We would discuss the spiritual aspects of how we were living almost on a regular basis, because he was a visionary. Elijah was a lot more spiritual than a lot of people gave him credit for. And the mask was just, like I said, like you said, a precursor to what we're going through now. He saw things way ahead.
Wow, Shaneen McClain, you've been an inspiration to so many.
Thank you.
And worldwide.
Thank you.
Like, the name Elijah McClain is known. A lot of individuals carry and help, but it is in concert with you, in support of
Right.
you. I believe that you should be the point in terms of how people support, as opposed to people saying they're doing things to be supportive and then have to walk it back because that's not exactly what direction you'd like to go in.
That's true. You know, a lot of people have the good intentions to do what's right, but sometimes their actions conflict their words. It conflicts their intentions. So that's when I know that it's not right. When it goes against what their words are saying, it has to stop. It has to stop. That's not who Elijah was. That's not who I am.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I know you've got to get going. Kuser, I want to just give you some final words in terms of what this moment means, where we're going, and how you even responded to what was revealed today, because you've been fighting this battle alongside Shaneen and others as well. What is your response, and then what are your final words?
You know, Shaneen is our queen. She's inspiring what she's caused, but she didn't do it alone. There's been individuals like you, Brother Jeff, good men like Omar Montgomery, who was there in the hospital with Shaneen in Elijah's final moments. There have been a lot of very positive, influential people that have supported Whoopi Goldberg.
Right.
Whoopi Goldberg
Has been loving on Shaneen McClain from the very beginning, and we're just along for the ride. Shaneen is the caboose on this train, and she's pushing us all along.
What was your response what was your response in terms of hearing what took place, and is it a step in the right direction from a legal perspective? Where are we at?
For almost 20 years, the system has not done this. We've become used to no indictments. We're getting used to seeing DAs like Dave Young, former chief of police, Chief Metz, spending about 5 seconds thinking about it and then absolving themselves of all responsibility. That's the system that we're used to. That's the system we as men of color are used to existing in. And to see some type of parity, some type of equality, it's difficult to process, and it's, you kind of like pinch yourself. Is this where we're at? Are police officers going to be held accountable finally for the carnage and murder they cause on communities of color? And if this is the day, then blessed is the day.
Well, I want to end my mind by saying salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum. Proud to be a Muslim attorney representing Shaneen McClain.
My man, Kuser. All right, Shaneen, thank you so much. And we will continue to be with you every step of the way, but you will be the point person in terms of what that means. And as you said, positive energy, keeping that name and that memory alive. And I think it's also important to realize that you are a real person.
I'm real, totally real. Unfortunately, I'm this real.